Hey, it's Rowena Patton here at All Star Powerhouse, brokered by EXP. Now we've got that out of the way. Today I am featuring Spartanburg and the Spartanburg area in South Carolina. We're going to have a look at some housing figures here and what's going on. This is from Nick Gurley, who's the guy I trust with housing figures around the country. We've got 30 data points on every single zip code. So this has got the nickname of the Hub City. It's also the home of many of the creators of the Marshall Tucker Band, who are a big favorite of mine. It has a great affordable cost of living and it's got that small town charm. And let's not forget BMW. Back in the day, I was actually the queen of the rat ring, just saying. And it's just an amazing experience at the BMW Experience Center where you can drive around in their fabulous cars. All right, that being said, let's have a look at housing figures and get to the fun stuff. So we're going to zoom in on one here. So basically what this means in terms of the colors in the whole area, if it is red, I'll show you what that means. Let's go down into this one, 29369. That's around more. So the forecast is around 4.2% down. That's fairly typical across the country. You're seeing 6% down. Some places you're seeing forecast 12% down. And remember, when you're selling your home, people are often coming in from other areas. So they might be coming in from California or Florida or New York in this particular market, for example, from Texas, from Washington, D.C., among others. But you always have your five or six what we call feeder markets, people coming in from elsewhere. 30 or 40% of the people buying are coming in from elsewhere. So it's so important to have your walking tour video because they're not local. Home values have still like peaked up just a little bit in here. The median home value is 296. So just under that 300 mark, which again, we said it's got a very, the affordability cost of living. Houses are a huge part of that. So let's have a look at home value growth. This is year over year. So it's gone down a little bit. And this is according to Zillow on this one. We're pulling the data from Zillow. So it's definitely gone down a little bit. We're at 3.5 now, we're at 1.1. That's the value from last year to this year. Those of you who follow me know I base it on Clement Juglar, 1860. It's a 7 to 11 year economic cycle. That means we go down 3.5 to 5.5 years, up 3.5 to 5.5 the last cycle, which we know started around 2007, 2008, depending on where you are in the country. Took 14 years. They can be longer cycles, they can be shorter, but expect this to continue now, the decline in home prices for the next 3 to 5 years, which is great news for home buyers, not so great for home sellers, unless the place you're going to is having a decline as well, which is most likely. If you're selling now and you're going into senior living or you're living with somebody else, my advice would be sell it now or hold it for 10 years and rent it out, in which case it's very likely to be worth more. I've done lots of podcasts and whole videos on this as well if you want a deeper dive on timescales. Let's have a look at for sale inventory. So as this rolls around, we went from 61 in 2023 to 114 in 2025. Last year it was only 90, right? So that's gone up quite dramatically, and that's just in this zip code. Home price forecast. Let's have a look at that. Obviously, it was going up, up, up. So on my radio show, which I've had for 13 years now, I was saying the top's going to come, the top's going to come. And the top did come around 2022. And then we've just kind of bumped along. We still call this a seller's market up here above the line. This line is right here. We're now, since 2023, 24, firmly in a buyer's market. That means for buyers, they're all going, woohoo, this is awesome. And for sellers, it's like, we'd better sell our house fast or hold it, remember, for 10 years. Don't say, oh, we'll just try selling it in the spring or try in a couple of, maybe we'll rent it and then try in a couple of years. Most likely it will be worth less. So not necessarily the best strategy. Everybody's case is different. More than happy to do a free strategy call with you to see, what your personal needs are. And we've got 4 different options to sell your home: a conventional CPO, A cash CPO and FISBO will show you a net sheet with all that on. All this is free. So you can see, according to Nick Gurley, we're firmly in a buyer's market, and definitely to me. Long-term growth score, that's not sitting so happy right now either, but obviously over time that changes. Home value growth over 5 years. Um, yeah, okay. No more needs to be said. Right. We'll just go over that one. Let's look at overvalued. That's not going to be too terribly bad here. I say that, and it's showing figures at 30% overvalued, which is interesting. So typical home value at 296, fair home value at 222. That doesn't mean anything other than if we get back to fair market values based on all this criteria, and this guy, by the way, is not alarmist. He's pretty spot on. The price would go back to 222. That could be at the bottom, maybe, right? And then it rises again. So just bear that in mind with where he's saying it's overvalued. This is undervalued down here for all this longest time, just to tell you. I said he's not an alarmist, and I find his figures very honest. All the way along here, we were showing undervalued. His figures come from all kinds of different places. This one right here is proprietary to him at Reventure. Let's look at price cuts. This is the one I like to look at. Price cuts that are higher than 2024, we had 20%. One in five houses had price cuts. About the same the year before. Only 10% in 2022. This is the whole COVID era around here, so that's got something to do with it. When we go over here, we've almost got one in three listings have a price cut. What does that tell you? Very important. It tells you, and this is across 187 listings in this zip code, it tells you that home buyers, home sellers are seeing the writing on the wall. They're like, some of us need to sell, not everyone. Those of you who don't need to sell, hold it for 10 years, rent it out, do something else with it, stay in it, whatever you want to do. So those of you that want to sell in and get your money out, the market is nervous. How do I know that? Because almost a third of people are cutting their price. It might be their agent saying, listen, you need to cut your price, right? So just know this is real. Price cuts are real. These are price cuts that are happening on one in three of the homes. Here's what's important about price cuts. These are like roosters that come home to roost in 3 months. So when these price cuts work their way through the market, and then some will withdraw, some will say, I'll keep it for 10 years. Some will still say, I need to sell. When these homes sell next month, the month after, they'll close lower because of all these price cuts. Does that make sense? And then the comparables against your home will be even lower. That's what drives the prices down. This is an early indicator. This is like your canary in the coal mine, if you're old enough to know what that means. Population growth. Also important, is your population growing in the area? According to the census, and we all know, what that means. So it was down in 2022. It's now up again, 5.3. That's good. Higher population means if it's not just, coming across the border and a lot of people who are here illegally, if you're not going to tag a lot of the growth to that, and even with that, often you can still buy a house, not if you need a mortgage. That's a whole different ball of wax. But if you can tie it to economy, if you can tie it to jobs, it's really about jobs. Are there jobs there for people to come to? And we know about Spartanburg, it has that small town feel. The Marshall Tucker band are out there just saying, doing really well right now. Maybe they're bringing them in, hoping to see somebody from the band. But population growth going up like that is really good. Cap rate, this is for investors primarily. It looks at, do you experience a decent cap rate? You do, because a lot of people are renting houses. That's what it tells you. A lot of the rest of it is salary to afford a house. This is a very important one in the salary to afford a house. So get this. This will give you some education on this. Back all the way back in 2021. This is only 4 years ago, guys. The salary that was needed to purchase a median priced house. This will tell you, I think, why house prices are going down all across the country, apart from a few holdout states. So this is really important. Back in 2021, the average, so the salary to afford a house was 34,000. I'm just rounding it because the numbers are really small. 34,000 on here is 33,000, right? So that's for the median priced house. Does that make sense? So to buy the median priced house in this zip code right here, you need a salary, a household income salary of $34,000. That's pretty low, right? A lot of people get that salary. So house prices obviously have jumped up. This is only 4 years, guys. Now you need $76,000 for the average mortgage payment. That's scary. So my question to you, have salaries gone up on average? And we all know the answer to this. Double is 66,000. This is over double. Over double. Right? So do you have salaries that have gone up by over double in the last 4 years? We all know the answer to that. It's a hell no. Have they gone up by a few percent? Excuse my French. But if they've gone up by a few percent, maybe they've gone up 5%. They haven't gone up 100%. So that tells you why the demand may be there, but they can't afford to buy the house because their salary hasn't gone up. 33,000, maybe it's gone up to 40,000, but it hasn't gone up to 75, and that's a median priced house. So we've got all kinds of different things here. We've got a buy versus rent differential. So typical house payment, we're still below the rent. That is good in this zip code. So the apartment rent, the average apartment rent is 2,100. The typical house payment is 1,800. So, in other words, if you can afford to get a mortgage, now if you're transitional because you're coming in to work at the Spartanburg plant, right? So, or whatever you're doing that may be transitional, maybe you're a traveling nurse, you're not going to buy a home, you're going to stay in your apartment. This is very good. This is unusual, by the way. The typical monthly house payment is $1,900 in your zip code. The apartment rent is $2,100. So you can save $237 a month by buying a house. That's good. That's really good. I'm glad we looked at that one. All kinds of others on here. You can see the percentage crash from last time around. 2007 was when it started going down. 2007, if I can find that easily, the prices were at 152 in 2007. They went up to 160. That was the height, not too far below what we're looking at now. They went all the way down, and people can say, oh, it's the banking crisis, yada, yada, yada. I prefer to say yes, it is some of the banking crisis. You're correct. It doesn't go down in a straight line. Back over here in 2009, we said, oh, it's turning around. Look, this is really great. It's gone up a little bit. It went up of all of, you held out onto your home for 3 years and it went up $3,000. Think about it, right? You didn't move on with your life for 3 years because it's like, oh, it's going to go back up to 200. Don't get caught in that trap chasing the market down. We went all the way down to 143. Does it show you the percentage on there? No, it doesn't. It doesn't show you the percentage. It just shows you what the price points were. I'm not suggesting we're going to go down that 33% or whatever it is from here. It's a little less than that. Most markets around the country went down 30 to 35%. We're expecting 10, probably 20% downward this year. Nobody has a crystal ball. And we'll see little upticks here, and people will go, see, that's why I held on to my house for another year. If you need to sell it, just think about the fact we're here right now, right? So when I say 3 to 5 years, this was a 14-year cycle. That's very unusual. So 3 to 5 years would be, this is '08. So we're expecting '12 or something like that. You can see in between, yeah, somewhere around here is where it went down to the bottom, all the way down to the bottom in 2012 because it was a longer market. I hope that made sense. Sorry, sounded a little convoluted. I'm going to finish up actually with Clement Juglar because it makes more sense if you look at this. If I take you over to the shift diagram, this is 2007 that I just showed you. This is 2023 where most of the country peaked. We're expecting it to be a 7 to 11 year cycle. No one has a crystal ball. The last one was much longer, obviously. So 2007, what is that? 13 years plus some more over here. So that's a long 13, 14, 15, 16-year cycle that was. It's normally 7 to 11 years. We expect 3.5 to 5.5 years down to the bottom, which we call the trough, and then back up again. It's not about politics, guys. Politics might give you a little blip up here and there and make it feel not as painful, and the general economy not feel quite as painful. And then it goes back up again. This red line right here represents what this whole red line going through Housing prices rise 2 to 5% per year over the long term. Problem is, you got 2 to 5%. We just saw 4.7, right? Forecast for this year. Is it right? We don't know. But we do know there's lots of price cuts. You can see it coming. Hopefully, you can see everything else in all the other figures. So if you want to keep hold of it, I've got three pathways here. Hold the home for the price. Have a 10-year mindset, at least a 10-year mindset. You can rent it out meanwhile. That's your second pathway. Become a landlord and rent it out. Or three, sell it now. Don't become a landlord without that 10-year cycle because you don't want to sell it in 2 years, right? Or 3 to 5 years, probably. Then it will start climbing again. And obviously, you'd like to. People say you can't time the market. You really can. I just showed you that all the tables that can help you time the market. So, I hope that helps you make a decision on it. The third option is to sell it now. We've got all kinds of options for you on that. Hope that helped.